This talk will be about hip arthroscopy and the fresh knowledge in the field of hip arthroscopy in generally. These two are the two pioneers of hip arthroscopy, although Berman has said that hip arthroscopy is impossible. However, we know that 2010 is probably the decade of hip arthroscopy, following shoulder and knee arthroscopy the previous decades. We have learned many things in hip arthroscopy, and we have solved many problems these years. So we know very well now how to do it. We know the different kind of pathologies, how to make a good selection of patients, and we know how to manage the complications, which were sometimes very serious in the past. However, the main issue the last years is how to handle some patients who do not do very well, which are the reasons that this group of patients do not manage to have a better state of their hip post-operatively. And based in these meta-analysis, we found some very important information, and the information is actually that when the patients have a second time a revision hip arthroscopy, then the main indications are cam deformity, the labral tear, and the pincer deformity. So actually this means that these three pathologies, which are actually the basic indications for hip arthroscopy, have some problems regarding the manner that we manage them or the manner we diagnose them before the operation. So I will speak about a few things that are coming in the literature the last years about the best way to diagnose and treat these pathologies. So regarding the cam lesion, we know that this is the basic indication. It accounts for 89.4% for all femoral procedures according to the non-arthroplasty hip registry. We know that there is the cam lesion is this bone overgrowth at the side of the femur. When we diagnose the cam lesion and we assess it, we are based in the usual AP and lateral X-ray, usually AP pelvis and X-ray, and frog lateral and frog leg lateral radiograph. But it seems that the best way to assess it is the 45 degrees lateral done. It is this X-ray here. We see that the greater trochanter is not going on the area of importance, like here, for example, this is a frog leg lateral X-ray. So we can see at the done view the crucial area that we need to handle during hip arthroscopy. So this is the recommended lateral X-ray. But of course, if someone has the facilities to have easily 3D reconstruction, then this probably is the best because it gives you a whole idea about the configuration of the femur. Personally, I use the MRI scan, which we routinely do in all patients in our practice. And I try on the MRI to see all dimensions of the femur, and also to come in this crucial area and try also to measure the distances, so I will know in detail during the operation, as far as I can, of course, how much is the depth that I have to go with my bear. Of course, during the operation, someone needs to be able to recognize the area to be removed, so to recognize the hyaline cartilage and the non-cartilaginous soft tissue, and then to mark this area with the RF probe, and then to go, after he recognizes everything, then to go to resection with the bear. It is also very important to ask your assistant to make some movements at the hip, so to do a dynamic examination and again to see which is the part of the cam that impedes to the acetabulum. Of course, we are very careful about the radiation, but in this case, we must do many X-rays with the image intensifier in order to be able to go to the crucial area again, which is here, because the area to be removed is at 1 to 2 o'clock at the femoral neck. And then changing portal is also important. Changing portal is also important because it is orientation sometimes is difficult in this area, and you have to see this area from different angles to understand where exactly is the impingement. The future directions is the computer-assisted resection. We imagine and we hope that we will have navigation systems that will tell us exactly where and how much bone to resect. Now, regarding the pincer is another difficult thing because we know that on the X-ray all the shapes can be changed if we change the angle that we see an X-ray, or the X-ray will see the patient. So we have to remember that in order to judge whether there is a pincer or not, we have to make a standardized, very careful standardized X-ray. And we have to understand if it is a normal hip or if it is a coxa profunda or protrusio acetabuli, because in these cases not only we may not have a very good result, but also the hip arthroscopy will be even impossible to do. We have to recognize also the posterior and anterior wall. If this is the normal, we may have an increased posterior coverage, or we may have the classical or most frequent pincer where the anterior wall is coming more laterally, and here we can see the crossover sign, and it is a sign by which we can also quantify the pincer lesion. Of course, the traditional angles, we have to measure them, especially in cases with borderline DDH, which causes micro instability, for which I will tell you a little bit later. During hip arthroscopy, of course, we will see the bone and we will trim it, and we can see how much we trim, again with the bear, but we have to take many X-rays to see whether the crossover sign is decreasing gradually, and we have we have to be very careful not to overdone it, because if you overdone it, then you will have an instability perhaps. And the third basic indication is the acetabular labrum. We know that it is a very important structure of the acetabulum. And at the labrum, the most sensitive area is this one here, the chondrolabral junction, where the acetabular labrum is actually going to the cartilage zone. According to the Celdes classification, we have type 1 and type 2, but also we can have this lesion that not only we have a problem at the chondrolabral junction, but also we have a delamination, and here is where the cartilage is detached, and gradually osteoarthritis may begin. Of course, the refixation now is the recommended treatment for the labrum, and in general, the acetabular labral tear is a strong indication for hip arthroscopy, and we have to repair it when technically is possible. Unfortunately, we may have also this case when we do not have labrum. Actually, there is a labral insufficiency, and for these cases, this technique has been developed the reconstruction where we take a graft from somewhere else and we put it at the rim of the acetabulum. It is a very difficult technique and very complicated to do it. Now, regarding the cartilage problems, many techniques have been proposed in many centers around the world, but it seems that we don't have the best evidence about these techniques, which is superior one from the other. But we know that microfracture, AMIC, and mosaic plasty are well reported techniques with reasonable short-term outcomes. And of course, the future is probably toward the biological approaches. Now, micro instability is something that is discussed very much in the last years. It is micro instability can caused by the soft tissues when we have hyperlaxity syndrome, labral tear, or ligamentous teres tear. It can be from the bony structures when we have borderline DDH, cam, pincer, and extra-articular impingement like subspine impingement. And it can be iatrogenic, especially for the surgeons who do a large capsulotomy or if we do labrectomy, labral debridement. For microinstability, if you do a large capsulotomy, then you have to suture the capsule, and in cases with microinstability due to borderline dysplasia, then you have to do not only suturing but also plication. And at last, there are other syndromes that can be treated arthroscopically. The two most important, we know that they are the deep gluteal syndrome, which can be caused not only from the piriformis muscle that traditionally have been described, but from other structures. And also we have the trochanteric pain syndrome, which can be caused from the trochanteric bursa or tear of the abductors. All these partially can be treated by arthroscopic means. So thank you very much for your attention.